welcome back to R Square's Monday Morning Mayhem. My name is R Square, and today we are doing Week 11 picks. We're just going to do it very quickly, very rapid fire. Going to be a very short video, so be listening out for your team. And without further ado, let's get started with the picks. Thursday Night Football, Bengals at M&T Stadium in Baltimore against the Ravens. I'm taking Cincinnati over Baltimore. I think their hot streak continues. They were a little disappointed after a narrow loss to Houston last week, but I think Baltimore is having a little bit of trouble after their loss as well. I'm taking Cincinnati over Baltimore on Thursday Night Football. Next up, we have Steelers and Browns, another divisional rivalry in the AFC North. It's really all going to come down to the quarterback performance in this one. If P.J. Walker does manage to get something going, I think that the Browns might be able to pull it away, but I haven't seen much of that from him so far. So I'm taking Pittsburgh with another narrow victory, and they somehow keep their whatever they have going alive. I have no idea what's happening over there. Next up, we have another divisional matchup, but this time in the NFC North. It's the Bears and the Lions. Not becoming much of a rivalry as the years go on, however, as the Lions are slowly starting to run away with it. I'm giving the Lions the win here. Next up, the first out-of-division game. It's the Chargers and Packers. I'm taking the Chargers over the Packers because the Packers have let me down quite a few times so far. In these picks videos, they've let me down quite a bit. But I am taking the Chargers over the Packers. I think the Chargers rebound from another narrow loss against Detroit. I think they come up with a win against Green Bay. Next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders and interim head coach Antonio Pierce, along with quarterback Aiden O'Connell out of Purdue, against Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel's Miami Dolphins. It should be an interesting game because the Raiders are semi-considered a winning team, and the Dolphins, as many people know, haven't beat a winning team yet. So it'll be interesting, a good challenge for the Dolphins, but also a good challenge for the Raiders as well. Give Antonio Pierce some real coaching experience. No offense to the New York teams, but they're not exactly, they're nothing more than just someone to beat up on. This is a good team. That'll be a big challenge for Las Vegas. I'm gonna say that I think I'm picking Miami over the Raiders here. I think we might be able to see the true Raiders here, so I'm very interested in this game in particular, just because we get to see, are the Raiders real or not real? Are they just good at beating the teams that they're better than, of course? But can they come up with a big win against Miami? I don't think so, but it would definitely shake things up if they could. More drama. That's just what the NFL needs right now. So. That would always shake up the playoff picture completely. So I'm putting Las Vegas on the upset alert here. I think this could be close, but I'm still taking Miami over Las Vegas. It'll be definitely a really interesting game. I think it's my favorite game at the 1 o'clock window. Next up is an NFC East rivalry game. It's the Giants and the Commanders. Wow. I mean, it's just I don't know what to say with the NFC East anymore. They were so good last year. They were decent the year before that, but now it's just like Eagles and Cowboys, and that's it. Not barely even the Cowboys. I don't even trust them that much, even though they did utterly destroy the Giants. I think the Giants have given up for the year. I'm taking the Commanders over New York right in that one. Next up is Cowboys and Panthers in Carolina. I'm taking Dallas no matter what happens, really. Carolina, I don't think Carolina is a good enough team to come up with a win. I think it was a good building year for them. They'll try to get better next year. We'll see if it ends up working, but in the end, I'm taking Dallas over Carolina. Next up, an AFC South divisional rivalry. It's the Tennessee Titans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I do have the history of picking the Titans in matchups, but not this time. After a 34-3 loss to San Francisco, I think Jacksonville gets a big rebound here and comes up with a victory over Tennessee. I think they deserve this one. I think they have to win the division, right? Otherwise, it would be disappointing for a ton of Jaguars fans out there. I would be a little disappointed because I picked the Jaguars to win the division too. But, I think it would be so much fun if C.J. Stroud and the Texans made the playoffs, but I am taking the Jaguars over the Titans in this one. Next up is the final game of the early window of games. It's the Cardinals and the Texans. Speaking of the Texans, C.J. Stroud's going to win this game with Houston for another game. The Texans' record will improve to 6-4. I don't know where this came from, but all of a sudden, the Texans have they've gone to a next level. DeMeco Ryans has been a great head coach. Look at Kyle Shanahan's coaching tree right now. You see all the guys that have come out of Kyle Shanahan's coaching tree. Mike McDaniel, DeMeco Ryans, and a few others, but those are all that I can think of right now. And yet, both of those teams, the Dolphins and the Texans, are both right up there with them with almost the same record, if not better. And team-wise, too, they might be better than them. I don't think Brock Purdy's up for MVP, but Tua Tagovailoa is definitely up for MVP, and C.J. Stroud's definitely looking like MVP candidate. But I doubt it. They would give MVP to a rookie. It's just not the kind of stuff the NFL does. They'll probably end up giving him Rookie of the Year, though. And now to open up the late window at 4:05, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the San Francisco 49ers. The supposed, I guess I would have to say it's the game of the week. There's not really much better of a game, honestly. I gotta say that this is probably the game of the week. On Sunday, it's not the game of the week game altogether. The game of the week's on Monday Night Football, but we'll get there when we get there. This is going to be an interesting game between two defenses that really looked pretty good last week. Tampa Bay came up with an interesting win against Tennessee last week. It was a big defensive battle in that game, but Tampa Bay did come up with the victory. It was actually terrible to watch. Like, nothing happened all game. That's what I heard, at least. I didn't watch it, but I was seeing other people, and they're like, man, what a bad game. Nothing happened all game. There was an occasional touchdown or two, but otherwise it was just like punt, touchdown, punt, turnover. You know, one of those games. So Tampa's defense has been pretty good this season. They've kind of been carrying them on their way to the playoffs, similar to how the Browns and Jets have done so far this year. The Bucs are a very similar team to that. But San Francisco's defense looks much improved with Chase Young. I mean, if I'm an offensive line, I'm terrified. If I'm an offensive line coach, I think I just tell my guys, just do your best. That's the best you can do. Because they're going up against Chase Young and Nick Bosa. There's nothing you can do about that. There's just two very good pass rushers on either side. It's almost impossible to cover. It's almost impossible to block for your quarterback when you got both those guys running on each side. There's no way. I think the 49ers will come up with a win this one. This is probably the game I'll be tuning in to. It'll be an interesting one. It'll be fun. Next up is Jets-Bills, an AFC East rivalry matchup inside the division. The Jets won the first matchup, narrowly, but they did win the first matchup in week 1. But that's not going to happen this time. I'm taking Buffalo over the Jets. Josh Allen with the new offensive coordinator after the shocking firing of Ken Dorsey. I don't know what happened there. They had to have seen something. Because as far as I know, the Bills are 7th in overall offense, 8th in overall passing yards, and they've been pretty good in rushing yards as well. It's been one of their better seasons running the ball, which doesn't say much considering their last running back was Devin Singletary, who really just averaged 14 points per game, runs per game, and that was it. 14 yards per game, and that was pretty much it. But yeah, I don't quite understand what's going on with that in that situation. But Joe Brady, he's got a history with Carolina back with Matt Rule as the head coach there. And if that said anything, the Bills are going to play terribly against the Jets. Just if that says anything, but it shouldn't really. I think the Bills do get the win. However, I think it could be a close defensive affair, especially with all the turnovers that the Bills are giving away on offense. We'll see if Joe Brady can at least fix that. Next up, it is the Seahawks and the Rams. I'm taking Seattle in this one, no really question about it. I think Seattle really just has to hand the ball off. Because there's a select number of people that are fun to watch on Seattle, and that's Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf. I was watching their game on Sunday. Tyler Lockett might just be the most boring player in the NFL. He catches the ball, but then he falls down. He catches the ball, and then he goes for the possession catch every single time. It kind of frustrates me because, when you want to see those big plays get up there, but you don't see it from Seattle anymore. They used to be able to just feed the ball to DK Metcalf and he'll take off, but they haven't done that recently. So I think the best thing they can do right now is get the ball to Kenneth Walker, and Kenneth Walker's done a fantastic job as the Seattle running back. I was really shocked by his production last season, and he's been even better this season. I think he's definitely the one leading the team right now, especially with Geno Smith's kind of barely trudging his way through the season, but I think Kenneth Walker is the key to beating LA in this one. I am taking the Seahawks over the Rams. Next up is the Vikings and Broncos. Sorry, I thought I was missing a game on here. I'm like, what game did I miss? Vikings and Broncos is the Sunday Night Football game. So the Seahawks and Rams game was the final game of the 4 o'clock window, and we're into Vikings. So there's only 3 games at 4 o'clock, an interesting slate of games. Yeah, so that's an interesting 3. I don't think any of them are going to be particularly amazing games, but if I had to pick one for game of the week, it would have to be San Francisco and Tampa Bay. Next up, Sunday Night Football, Minnesota, Denver. Denver coming off a huge win against Buffalo. Was it a fluke? Was it not? I'm saying it was a fluke. Denver's actually favored to win this game, which is shocking for me. But I'm taking Minnesota over them. I think Minnesota's hot streak continues. Joshua Dobbs has been pretty good. I always knew Kevin O'Connell had it in him to be a good coach, mainly because the Rams got a whole lot worse once he left. So that's why I always thought he was going to be a good coach, because the Rams got bad when he left. That's kind of how I measure it, is if the team that they left got worse. I'm like, if they didn't get worse, it's kind of like, well, I don't know. Like, you can tell that DeMeco Ryans was really helpful for San Francisco when he was there before he moved to Houston. He was really helpful there because of how their defense has performed through the first half of the season under Steve Wilkes. It's looked really bad for San Francisco's defense, which is almost unstoppable now with that defensive line. But otherwise, yeah, that's how I could kind of tell that DeMeco Ryans was going to be a good coach, and that's also how I can tell that Kevin O'Connell actually does have some coaching talent, which is why I think the Vikings do beat the Broncos. And Kevin O'Connell, I mean, he's not a bad coach. He's been a great coach as long as I haven't seen anything particularly wrong with him. I know that he was on the hot seat like 2 weeks ago, and I saw it, and I'm like, why is this guy on the hot seat? He's been nothing but okay. Like, he hasn't been great. But they've made the playoffs every season that he's been there so far. And, I mean, he hasn't done anything wrong yet. We'll see if they make the playoffs this year around, and then maybe it's kind of into consideration. But obviously, they're not winning the Super Bowl or anything like that with the team that they have this year. But if he can at least make the playoffs, I think he saves his job. But anyway, I've talked a little too much on this game. I'll take Minnesota over Denver. Final game, it's Monday Night Football, a rematch of the Super Bowl, by far the game of the week. It's Eagles and Chiefs. I'm taking Philadelphia over Kansas City. A little bit of a Kelsey on Kelsey rematch. Again, of course, the question is, will Taylor Swift be there? Will they win because Taylor Swift's there? I'm going with no. I think the tush-push prevails, and Philadelphia wins in Kansas City in the Super Bowl rematch. At least that's who I'm rooting for. I feel like I kind of wanted them to win the Super Bowl last year too. The only reason I was okay with them losing and not like rooting for them like passionately was because the Chiefs, the Eagles won not that long ago either. I really didn't have a preference with this Super Bowl. Now I do. I want the Eagles. I want another team to win, obviously, but preferably an interesting team to watch, like a fun Super Bowl. I want a fun Super Bowl, like something like Detroit and Miami or something weird like that. I just don't I don't like seeing rematches of Super Bowls, and so Kansas City and Philadelphia both being back, I didn't really have a preference on what the better game was going to be here, but I'm going with Philadelphia over Kansas City. Jalen Hurts, I think Jalen Hurts just has to throw the ball. Just has to throw the ball to A.J. Brown, because if you look at that cornerback unit for Kansas City, do they have anyone that can beat A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith? That Juan Thornhill? I don't think so. I don't think Juan Thornhill can beat A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith. And I don't think that Trent McDuffie can beat him either, because I believe that's who they're going to put on Devonta Smith. That's who I would put on Devonta Smith if I was their coordinator. I'm not, but that's who I would put on Devonta Smith based on their cornerback unit. I think Trent McDuffie's fast, and he's got that protective layer. He's kind of great at keeping with them. He's great at keeping with them when they go down the field, and that's kind of all what Devonta Smith does. But I just don't think there's anyone that can keep up with A.J. Brown, whether it's Juan Thornhill, Trent McDuffie, or any of those guys on there. I don't think there's anyone that can keep up with him. So I'm taking Philadelphia through the air attack. I don't think the running attack's going to get very much going against Kansas City. I'm taking the air attack in Philadelphia over the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. And the teams on bye this week are the Atlanta Falcons, Indianapolis Colts, New England Patriots, and New Orleans Saints. The Falcons could definitely have some work to do on their bye week, try to figure out what's going on with their quarterback room. The Colts really have to... actually, the Colts they don't really have much to do. They're 5-5. I'm sure they're happy. I'm sure Colts fans are like, this is better than I thought we were going to be. Like, as soon as they heard that Anthony Richardson was on injured reserve, they just lost hope. But they're 5-5. They're still in a pretty good shit. They're still in a good spot. I think that everyone's happy if you're a Colts fan about where you are right now. So I think they don't really have much to fix on this bye. As for New England, they have everything to fix. Just work stuff out. Fire Belichick, fire Jones. Do whatever you want. Just fix something. Just make yourself a little better. For the sake of the fans, make yourself a little better. It doesn't have to be a lot better. Just make one change during this. maybe start Bailey Zappi instead. Just see if it works, you know. And then for New Orleans, they're also in pretty good shape, and yeah, I think New Orleans is fine. But that is all I have for today. That is all the games. So of course, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hit that notification bell so you get notifications. Well, obviously, but so you get notifications when new videos drop and stuff like that, and other stuff. You know, just stay informed. Hit that notification bell. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and comment down below if you want to see more content like this. Of course, I do this one video every week, but say someday someone comments down below, can you do an NBA picks video? I will be happy to oblige and do that for you. But anyway, this would be the point when I would say my super catchy catchphrase. If that's something you can comment down below. If you have a catchphrase for me, please. It's just so awkward when I'm at the end of these videos and I'm just like, yeah, that's the end of the video. And so without further ado, that's the end of the video.